In this lesson, we're going to talk about characters. And let's begin with our protagonist. So the protagonist is the leading character, hero, heroine of a narrative or drama. And I'm talking about games here, movies, TV shows, animated, live action. It doesn't matter. Every story has some sort of protagonist. And we got Kratos here, we got Mario, Sonic, Simba, Aladdin, Merida. This is a variety of examples from both from video games and movies. So typically, the protagonist is the face of the game or story. So here's some examples of games. This is the hero of the story. We got Mario, Sonic, and Kratos. They're also the face of the film. So Simba, Aladdin, Merida. It's what people associate as the face of the story, so you have to think about who you want to be the face of your stories. It's super, super important to really have a well thought out protagonist that is enticing and intriguing in some way. So your protagonist can be varied. There's not just one type of protagonist. So, examples is there could be a humorous one, there could be a heroic one, or there could be an anti-hero one. And this is, just an example of some of the types of protagonists you can have. Here's some more examples of them. We got Roger Rabbit as humorous, Aladdin as heroic, and then we have the anti-hero as the old man from Up. So still a protagonist, still our main character, but all are different in different ways here. So humorous types, they usually do and say funny things. They're typically there for comic relief of some way. The protagonist doesn't always have to be, that solemn and tough guy. They can be funny and quirky. So think if your character's a humorous type, and if so, what type of humorous are they? So are they witty? Are they clever, clumsy? What do they say? What do they do that will make the audience laugh? There's such a variety of different ways you can make humorous characters interesting in your story. So is your character a heroic type? Typically, they save the princess, save the world, etc. They're always good at something, but they always have this relatable flaw to them as well that helps us relate to them. So they're not, they're not perfect characters. They're someone that we can love and know and really root for. And then there's the anti-hero. So anti-hero characters basically do bad guy things, but the audience still loves them. They are the main hero, the protagonist, but they go about it in a not so nice way. So they may hurt people, they may kill people, but they do it in a way that we can associate with them. And no matter how bad they become, we still tend to want to root for them. And it makes them really intriguing. So each character has its own personality and traits, and you really need to think about what are the traits that make your character unique. Basically, what you're going to do is create a short description that can tell someone in a minute or two what your character is about. Basically, have you ever heard of an elevator speech? Imagine if you were in an elevator and you have to pitch your idea to someone before they get out. So you have, 30 seconds maybe to tell them what this is about, and you have to say it fast. So here's just a couple words I throw down to really show what these characters are. We got courageous, bouncy, happy. Sonic is cool, edgy, fast, and then brutal, vicious, and selfish. But really what you want to do is write a description. More than just a couple words. Those couple words can get you going, but what you want to do is write out this short description. And these are only like 2 sentences long. As we said, you have maybe 30 seconds to get this out to someone. So they're short, but they simply describe the character in both mannerisms and some physical descriptions, and it helps paint an image in your mind relatively quickly, or their mind. So some examples here, we got Mario. He's a courageous plumber who is short, plump, lovable, and always happy. Wears a red cap with an M on it, blue overalls and white gloves. He has blue eyes and a bushy mustache. So see how it's talking about both physical and his traits about how he, goes about the world, what his humor is like, and things like that. So both personal and physical traits. Sonic is a hip hedgehog with an attitude and a need for speed. He is blue-skinned with red shoes. His eyes are green and his features are pointy and spiky. And then we have Kratos. He's an enraged warrior hellbound on revenge. He is pale like a dead man and covered in swirling red tattoo. He wears ancient Greek attire and has jagged swords for weapons. So these are some really short examples of what you can do for your descriptions. It doesn't have to be paragraphs, quick 1 or 2 sentences, really get a nice quick description. So then when you're going to create your character, first thing you want to think about is motivation. Why is your character in this story? What is he or she trying to do? What is the motivation? So Mario's trying to save Peach, Sonic wants to save all the animals, and Kratos is trying to avenge the death of his family by killing Ares. So they're all some sort of motivation. Once you figure out the character's motivation, then you can start thinking about their name, and names have meaning. A good character will have a name that will exemplify a trait for the character. So what's a trait that your character has that could be brought forward with a name? So we got Master Chief here, we got Darth Vader. I mean, tell me Darth Vader doesn't sound like a bad guy name. Luke Skywalker, I mean, that's such a nice sounding name, Skywalker. It sounds so heroic. We got Max Payne and Sonic and Tails. So names, they have a connotation with them, whether or not it's good or bad. Each name has a meaning, and really think about the name and see how it can exemplify your character in some way. And it doesn't always have to be like, hammer on nail type thing. We got Tails there. It's a little, right on the nose. But you can do that. That's not saying it's necessarily wrong. It depends on your character. But think about, getting a really good name that has meaning for that character and not just some random name that you happen to like. So then you have to make animation lists, and it's basically how does your character's personality come across in animations. So a live action film doesn't necessarily need this because you'll have an actor, but for an animation or a video game, you have to think about how your characters stand, how they walk, how they fall, how they run, what they look like when they're excited, etc. All these things contain personality and will be unique for each character in your movie or game. So I've included a template from Scott Rogers' book Level Up, and this template will help you plot out the basics of your character. The name, the description, what do they do when they stand, when they're idle. Think about all of these aspects will create a well-rounded character for you. So moving on, the next type of character we have is a side character or a helper. A side character is an agent of the protagonist or someone who wants the same thing. They will possibly be the viewpoint character for a sufficient chunk of the story. These characters are there to give a variety to the player and to give reinforcement to the protagonist. And this is both, video games and movies, either one. Everyone has friends, so why not have friends for your protagonist? Oftentimes, they will help out the main character in some way. And I'm sure you can think about all these characters here and how they helped out our protagonists in their games or movies. So I've also included a side character template, which is the exact same thing as a protagonist template. But just to show you, you would still need one for your side characters as well. Everyone needs a character write-up. So now let's look at a different type of side character, and that is a minion. So not necessarily the little yellow minions. Minions is a general term that talks about basically an agent of the antagonist or someone who wants the same thing as the antagonist. So all the little bad guys you fight against in your video games are minions. Evil little characters who want to destroy you because the main bad guy wants to destroy you. Here's some examples from movies, Iago, we got Alpha, and we got Nefu, who wants to help Gaston. So there is examples, both video games and movies will have minions in some way. Here's their enemy write-up for them. It's minutely different. Basically, what does the character get from defeating this type of character is important. And then last up we have the antagonist, and this is the principal character in opposition to the protagonist or hero of a narrative drama. Every story has a bad guy in some way. So who is that bad guy and how are they in opposition to your protagonist? We've got some movie ones here. We got Jafar and Scar, some examples. And then lastly here is your character boss write-up. Thinking in particular, what does the character get or learn when you defeat them? Because they do serve a purpose. They're not just there, to give you something to fight. You know, they are there for a reason for your character to learn something. And that is basically it. Any character in a movie or game breaks down to these categories, and they are in service to the main character in some way, the protagonist in some way. So you really need to think about all your characters and make sure they're well balanced throughout. Whether or not it's a good guy or a bad guy, whenever you're creating a story or a video game, you need to think through every single character that appears in that story.